Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising, June 2023. The, the first news is that the whole month Mars will be in your relationship sphere, in its own sign. So really invigorating you. You might notice that you are attracting a lot more active people, more youthful, more excitable, and that others or your partner is like an engine, a driving force behind your actions. And actually, it helps to, if you collaborate with someone to do something difficult together with another person, because you'd have kind of like more drive, excitement to do it together. You can initiate some project together, or you can notice that if your partner has been a bit more, slow or whatever, they'll start their reality will start speeding up. A lot of events will be happening, connecting with others, a lot of exchanges and communications with others, and some of them a bit more heated, some of them a bit more sexual. It usually can increase the sex drive when Mars is in the seventh house, with others, if you're in such a phase of life, of course. And on the negative side, sometimes if Mars is doing hard aspects to some of your planets in your horoscope while it's in the seventh house, not the whole month, but sporadically, if it makes hard aspects, you can notice escalation with others, in your relationships with others, some kind of a confrontation that happens. But you're willing to stand your ground when it comes to others, even to put others in the corner and impose on them whatever you want. And if it comes to business, because seven house is related to business, you can forge some much more, let's say, brave contracts and agreements. Much more, you can be more aggressive in business, so to speak, in reaching out to others. And you can have some great results because Mars is in its own sign. Just be careful about the possibility of arguments because of others becoming more pushy towards you, or and you, of course, responding, or even you initiating that. But definitely a lot more energy, excitement. Uh, Sorry about that. A lot more energy, excitement in relationships with others, a lot more dynamic developments there. The other big thing is that Mercury is turning direct in your eighth house around the 3rd of June, but Mercury is still is still square Saturn the first week of June, which means that if there are some complications in regards to partners' resources, finances, mutual finances and resources in business, stock investments, matters connected to taxes, insurances, inheritances. For example, this Mercury retrograde in my husband's 8th house, because he's Libra rising, created some difficult situations around taxes, because our tax guy says, well, I don't have time to do it on your own. So he had to like do everything that's like a retrograde period. He had to delay the payment of the taxes. It was very strenuous for him, very stressful. And I told him after the first 10 days of June, and even the first week of June, you'll start feeling a relief. You'll see the results of the hard efforts you put. Plus Venus is in your 8th house all the time till June 23rd. So it's really already helping with any problems related to insurances, inheritances, mutual finances, stock market, investments that you've put in some funds or whatever. There might be some less complication the first week because Mercury retrograde, Saturn, some delays, but after that things really start flowing smoothly. And if you've done the right work, you're gonna see much better results, like receiving more money from clients, support from another, money that you expect from another, or anything else. 8th house, insurances, inheritances. Plus it can indicate resolving some intimacy issue if you had some problem on Mercury retrograde in the 8th house on a personal level, about some secrets coming to the surface, some intense power struggles in communications and in relationships, because 8th house is connected to that. They can start getting resolved. Plus, if you are struggling with some obsessive tendency or a darker side of yourself, while Mercury was retrograde in the 8th house, when it starts moving direct, you can find like a liberation from such kind of obsessiveness or such kind of darker manifestation of the self, or such kind of situations that something has more power over you. And because the ultimate goal of the eighth house is liberation, Mercury starts moving direct there, Venus is there, you can have some psychological liberation from a complicated trauma or complicated attachment of some sort to another or to something. Okay, then at the same time that Mercury is turning direct, Saturn is turning retrograde in your fifth house. Actually, it's happened already twice in the last 2 years, from 2020, 2021, and now 2022. I think it's the last time. It will be retrograde for 5 months and not again for 30 years. And that means that starting from the beginning of June, maybe already from May, some of you felt it, you are re-examining, because that's Saturn likes to really slow things down when it goes retrograde, and re-examining your approach to fifth house matters. So some of you, it might be re-examining your creative projects, bringing some old creative project or hobby or some old sport you used to do for life, for fun, bringing it back to life. Retrograde can mean one of those things. Going back to some kind of a pastime or leisure time or sports, especially with way more commitment and with way more serious approach towards some sports or whatever, and or some creative project, it doesn't have to be creative like painting. It can be some original idea that you had, some original project. It might be even some projects for business, if it's your own business or your own original idea that you thought about before, you started before, and you come back, Saturn goes retrograde, and you go back to revive it or to start doing it now. But it's not something new, it's something you've thought about, that is your own baby, your original idea, or something that you are already doing, that you have to double down the efforts on, and you have to redo it, change it somehow. So if you're creating a business, for example, if you started doing it already, Saturn retrograde day, you can reorganize some of the ideas for this business, some of what it will present as a project creatively, and so on. But it can be a slowing down of such processes. And on another level, fifth house is romantic pleasures and romantic enjoyments, like dates or having fun overall. Well, when Saturn is in the fifth house for the last 2 years, maybe it hasn't been so accessible for many Libras because of responsibilities of some sort, because of many duties. And Saturn retrograding there can again kind of double down on the responsibilities, especially domestic responsibilities, because Saturn rules your fourth house. And that can influence the access to enjoyments to you. And you have to plan it better. You have to organize. Like, fun is not so easily accessible for Libras unless they plan for it, unless they organize themselves for it, unless it's something that is also productive as a fun, like running or if you like some hobbies, you also are working on them with the perspective to turn them into a career of some sort. Or maybe duties and responsibilities around children will intensify for the next 4 or 5 months. But on a positive level, it means you re-examining, those of you who have children, you re-examining your boundaries with children, your rules, and your structure around how you're raising children, and doubling down on your efforts to make it more to remove unnecessary things that are overburdening you yourself, and to create more structure in the life of your children. Or it might be that a child of yours is going through a period where it needs you more help or more support, or a child that is some of you can mean your child coming back, maybe they were abroad somewhere or far away, and you're reconnecting with your child. That's another positive way to look at it. And of course, fifth house is romance. So some of you might be re-examining the patterns in your romantic life. And it can be like a slowing down of your romantic life and deciding how to make the romance more sustainable long term. Maybe revisiting some old things that you used to do romantically with a partner, planning time romantically to be intimate or to have a quality romantic time with your partner, to have fun, but it has to be planned. It can't be like spontaneous almost. As I said, even Saturn can deprive you of access to that. Or some of you on a more negative level can be reevaluating whether who you want to be romantically connected with, and putting boundaries. What do you allow in love in situations? If someone is hurting your ego, is hurting your self-expression, is sucking out the joy of your life, so to speak, how do you say no to that and the structures you build around it? Sometimes they can be like an ego hit that happens to a person connected to romantic matters, that they have to work through in some way, and sometimes just a little bit of a dry period. But again, because Saturn is in its own sign, it wants to finally, the final results, especially when it turns direct, can be very good with creative project, with what you did with children, with your romantic relationships or pastimes and pleasures of any sort. But you're a lot working on your self-confidence. That can be a great time, for example, because fifth house is one of the houses of the self, on self-improvement of any sort, through spiritual techniques, through exercise, and that's not so much exercise for health as exercise for to improve your self-confidence, in a sense, in your appearance, even that you can double down on efforts there when Saturn is retrograde. All right, some old romantic partners or patterns might be returning for you to re-examine them. Then June the 13th, Mercury moves into your ninth house from the 8th to the 9th, and in its own sign. So that can be a fantastic time from June the 13th, maybe travel to some time into July to go on a trip somewhere far away, for a different culture, to connect with foreigners socially, to make foreign friends as well, to connect, even not in person, but online, with people from a different social background, with teachers, with inspirational people, or to even start learning or studying something new that opens up your mind, that you find more inspirational. And opportunities, as I said, for travel and so on, and doing documents for foreign relocation. There is a full moon in Libra on June the 14th, so you can be quite social around that time in the full moon. You can, short trip possible as well, long trips and short trips, and communications escalate in some way. Some important news can come to you, some important piece of paper, document, device, something important connected with devices for social contact. And at the end, Venus moves into your ninth house on June the 23rd, so it becomes even better from June the 23rd into halfway into July, for traveling to foreign places, for learning something new, for very pleasant new relationships that arrive in your life, that expand, especially with women, or it can be even a romantic relationship that expands your horizon. Or if you're traveling abroad, you can enjoy a lot such experience. So if you're taking on a course, educational, higher knowledge of some sort, you can flow through it, breathe through it, really enjoy it. You can find new motivation, inspiration, and more luck overall. So thank you so much. Let's see how it goes.